For this week's big interview for Social Breakfast, we're with Labour Councillor Pete Lowe. So, Pete, if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, thanks for giving us this opportunity to meet and have a discussion. My name is Pete Lowe. I'm a local councillor within Dudley for Lie and Stourbridge North Ward, and as part of that, I'm also deputy leader of Dudley Council. So that's two of the hats I wear, and then there's a third hat. Recently I've been selected to be the Labour Party candidate for the Stourbridge constituency for the 2015 election. So a busy lad trying to serve the interests of the people of the community I serve.
Okay, on your Twitter page it says that you're a Billy Bragg fan. So do you have like a favourite album?
I'm still a Life's a Spy fan, in the fact I think during that LP he did both the political songs and he did his heartfelt love songs as well, which is what I actually like about Billy Bragg. I think I've probably seen him about 30 times live.
30 times? And
actually stood on one occasion about 10 yards from him when there was a bomb scare at Wolverhampton Civic Hall when Jim Davidson was performing upstairs. I got within 10 yards of my hero, but
oh, wow.
Yeah, massive Billy Bragg fan, every single, every LP, even some of them on vinyl we've paid no more than 99p.
Wow. I've met Billy Bragg and he's a really, really nice bloke.
I shall shake your hand, I mean, absolutely. yeah, absolute gentleman.
Really, really nice guy. And a socialist, just like you describe yourself on your Twitter page. So how do you describe yourself as a socialist in the Labour Party?
Well, I think the Labour Party, I don't think the Labour Party would proclaim to be a socialist party, but the Labour Party historically has also always been a party with socialists in them. For example, Nye Bevan was one of the greatest social pioneers, I think, of the whole of the last century. People like Clem Attlee, what brought in then in more recent times, you've got people like Dennis Skinner, Tony Benn, other people who've advocated the cause. And what do I mean by socialism? Well, it's very, very simple. It's about, I'm a passionate believer in that we achieve more by working together as a community, as a social group, than we ever will achieve by acting alone. And I think society should be judged by how we treat those within our society that have the least, as opposed to how we look towards giving advantage to those that have the most. And that's my definition of socialism. It's about how do we actually look for that person who is vulnerable, because all of us could be vulnerable tomorrow morning with one change in our personal circumstance, and how as a state can we ensure that we have a welfare system through the NHS, through the education, through social services that looks after each and every person in those needs. And that's what interested me in politics, and that's why I got involved at a fairly youthful age, at the age of 14, and wanted to change the world. And I sit here as a 44-year-old now, with children the same age as I was when I first got active, still wanted to change that little bit of the world that I can.
As a modern day socialist, what would you say about the living wage that Ed Miliband has been talking about?
I think the living wage is one of the most significant areas that Ed Miliband has spoken about. In the last 10 years, I've advocated for the minimum wage, and I was, as a trade unionist, for many years in advocating the minimum wage, and I've managed to get that. But of course, that only gives us the very lowest level that people deserve to be paid. What we need to advocate is actually a living wage, and the reason for that is not because it makes political sense, but actually because it makes economic sense. Because if you've got people on a minimum wage, and then you take them from a minimum wage onto a living wage, you actually reduce significantly the welfare requirements that we need to give these people. So I have no compunction in saying that we need to impose upon employers the right of a living wage, because by doing that we actually very clearly demonstrate that we care for those within our community, and we give them the means in order to go out and to shop within our shops without being dependent upon the state.
I think to play devil's advocate for a moment, some would argue that forcing employers to pay a living wage would actually cost jobs. How do you respond to that argument?
Those same arguments would be used when we talked about forcing employees to wear an helmet when they went up scaffolding, or forcing people to wear a safety harness when they scaled a building. History demonstrates that people will often be opposed to that. I'll give a very clear recent example. The minimum wage was opposed by every single Conservative member of Parliament at the time because it was going to cost us 3 million jobs. The reality is it didn't cost us one job, it actually created additional posts. And the reason it creates jobs is because if you give people the means of income, what are they going to do with that? All the research shows you that certainly people within the ordinary working people don't put those under the pillow or put those into a building society. They invest that, whether that be into the children's education or whether that be into buying a new car or taking a better rental property, or if the means provide to buying their own property or to taking the children and the family away on holiday. So all of that money is reinvested in that community. So that workforce that are paying the national living wage reap the benefits from that. And one of the things that I've always advocated as a local councillor is about regeneration of our towns, and the living wage is a very important part of ensuring that we have a living wage culture.
Would you say that's important to have a living wage considering the rising cost of living as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I cannot see an argument against a living wage. I can see reservations if I was an employer employing people, and of course I would be concerned about my costs going up. But if you see it in isolation, then that's where you see the restrictions. I think if you see it in the whole, and like I say, it's not because it makes political sense, it actually makes economic sense. And what I'm interested in doing is about how do we get new companies to open up, where at the moment we've got shops shut or boarded up or being used simply as charity shops. How do we encourage people coming in? The only way you're going to encourage new regeneration is giving people the money in their pockets that they can then invest back within that community.
We recently met up with Margaret James, MP for Stourbridge. We talked to her about unpaid internships. Now, she said in principle that they're a good idea, that they help young people to get work experience, but as a prospective Labour candidate, what do you feel about this?
I absolutely see the use of interns, and I absolutely see the importance both for the Member of Parliament or for the individual being able to learn whilst they're on the job. But let me make it absolutely clear that if I was the MP for Stourbridge, every intern that I took on would be employed on the hours that they did, on the living wage, because I think the best way to learn isn't just by on the job, but it's by how you're actually treated whilst undertaking that job as well. And I think if we're looking at the living wage, currently around £7.50 an hour, well, I would certainly be getting £7.50's worth out of any intern that I had coming to work for me. I've never been a believer in unpaid labour.
I mean, a lot of some of the young people I've spoken to have said that it's an exploitation of labour to make them work, but not to pay them for it.
And I would absolutely agree with that. I mean, I think as I've made clear, is by all means have that experience on there. You're not going to pay that individual whilst they're learning on the job a significant salary. I think the living wage is an absolute bare minimum, should be the starting place for anybody undertaking it. And let's not forget that some of these interns are actually degree based. They're people who've been to university for 3 years and have probably got as many skills in their area of expertise as myself with 20 or 30 years. Are we seriously saying that all those individuals are worth is a cup of tea or a cup of coffee or the cost of a bus coming in? I want to be able to look people in the eye and saying, I don't just value what you do, but here's the way that we can actually demonstrate that. And if I, as a democratic socialist, believe that in an equal system where all are valued, it'd actually be double standards of me if I didn't think that we should pay individuals undertaking that work a proper living wage.
What are your views on student loans, considering it's now increased to £9,000 a year, I think? So, I mean, as a democratic socialist, what do you say about that?
I don't believe in the student loan system. My daughter, in the last 24 hours, has just been accepted to Nottingham University. Her fees are £9,000 per year for a 3-year course, £27,000. Her accommodation is £5,000 per year, so that's another £15,000. So £40,000. I oppose the student loan. The reason I oppose it is because I don't believe, when we talk about interns and talking about the value of contributing to society, one of our key values that in order to get a degree that you come out with 50 or 60,000 pounds worth of debt, because I actually don't see that that's necessarily something that I wish to be associated with. Now, in saying that, we can't overnight return back to a universal system where all is free at the point of... But I think that we should certainly be taking incremental steps back in that direction. And I think the first way to do that is to cap the amount that student loans cost with a view towards moving away and far more back to a universal system than we currently have.
Okay.